Hello everybody and welcome back to EEP 15. Today we will concern ourselves mostly with the area here in the center. Last time, as part of the coal shunting or coal processing, I've briefly introduced you to this little village that I called Farmington here in the center. And we're gonna go there now and take a look at that, and then we'll deal mostly with a new operation that I call the agricultural operations, or let's say turnip shunting for short. So this is Farmington. The village itself has not changed, but it has now received a small branch station, a little connection point where both passengers can leave, but where also agricultural products can be loaded onto cars and then brought back to the harbor perhaps. I've also decorated this area a little bit more with fields and a few pastures, farm tracks, and so that looks, there's still some, dividers missing. Probably there will be more bushes coming. It's certainly far from ready, but it is not just a plain green area anymore. So, what else has changed? There is now a little, well, let's call it a agricultural cooperative here. And I envision the agricultural process as follows. And for that, let me try see if I have a view for. I'm not sure about. Let's go to the regular train station view. I've worked a little bit also here on the sidings, where one of our main protagonists, this train, the turnip train, is waiting. I started putting a little bit of grass in there, but you see in the back I haven't done that yet. I'm also not quite sure if I wanted to make this an illuminated area that people can actually work here in the dark, but I'm not sure if that makes sense to have this kind of light in the siding area. I'm also not convinced about this siding in general. I think it looks very lonely. I'm not sure if that actually really would have looked like this. I'm thinking about perhaps putting a little bit, some buildings in here, some industry, at least some sheds or something to make it look a little bit more lively and not kind of just sidings in the forest. Even though they are, of course, connected here to our main train station, it's just a storage for rail cars area. But I'm still not convinced myself how I decorate this. For now, I just put some trees around. But in any case, what is this agricultural process all about? We have here our train that will be sent over to Farmington. And it will kind of use this sound. Let me just go in there and show you. The sound contact, which just called the lure function, called TP1, TP for turnip, route 1. So basically switches all the direction through Farmington. So it's one command and you get all the switches set correctly. for the whole route. I could, of course, used predefined routes for this, but it's actually more effort, I believe. You have to declare and announce or register then you have to deregister or sign off from the route and this, that, and the other thing. And it's just a single use for that route anyway. So I don't think that makes sense here. So I just made one function in my Lua script. Let me go there. If I find it, I'll show it to you. Cold shunting, turnip shunting. It's a single function that sets basically all the switches to Farmington. There's a little anecdote. This 22 is just click reload, is a double cross switch like this. I'm not sure if that's the right English word for it. In German, they call it DKW for Doppelkreuzweiche, I guess. And it has several states, and I've hoped that I can just use the same function that I use to switch turnouts. And I made a little test, and I've just tried different arguments and see what happens. And I tried 1 and nothing happened. I understand now why. And then I tried 2, and again nothing happened. And it's hilarious because 2 would have been a valid argument, as I later found out. But as it happens, I was in position 2. So I just left it in 2. And so I had the feeling nothing happened. I'm using the wrong command. So I went into the forum and I found a lot of posts about how to switch over and operate these DKWs from a designer called GK3, which has moving parts and is made out of actually 4 switch drives and instead of the single lantern. And there's a lot of information, and I couldn't really find much about just the regular, plain, very simple, regular ones until I realized there was a change in EEP at one point. It's a while ago. But the arguments are actually 2, 3, and 4, to make a long story short. And I didn't realize it because 1 doesn't do anything, and 2 left the way I was coincidentally. So anyhow. Oh, by the way, you see also that it's still the same track, but I lifted the terrain just slightly so that you don't see the gravel bed that comes with the track, and I try this look here in the train station. I hope that looks okay. Of course, there has to be a little bit more variety in the textures here. I just have a basic track ballast texture at the moment. Anyhow, let's continue with our story. What is the operation? I was starting and then I interrupted myself. The train will drive here. That will start automatically later, but in this first, and I believe it will be several movies, at least another one. We won't finish this today, but so there will be a little bit building here today and testing and debugging. We'll drive over this contact, which will set all our switches until we are in Farmington. Then in Farmington, let me just go there again. We just park our cars here in the siding and then do the setting over again with regular contacts. There are just a few regular switches that during the shunting process, the setting over process, control those switches, and some that define the speed and things like that. And that is basically the route for the way back. Anyhow, the train will come. It will go into this second track here. The engine will turn over, decouple. I have no agricultural vehicles in store yet. There will be no loading. We just assume the cars are loaded. We'll drive back, and our goal for today is to get those cars to the harbor and see how that works. And I'm pretty convinced it will not work at first try. We will probably have to correct this. Also not sure if this walkways across the track is appropriate for the small station. There are a few that are with wood. They are probably more suited. So I will have to probably switch them over. In any case, let's get the train started. We'll hop on and take a right and see if all the switches, at least in the direction to Farmington, are set correctly. There should be. But then if the distances and everything in the shunting process is correct, I have not tested that. And I'm almost convinced it will not work on first try, because just the contacts will be not in the right place. So we set a speed of, say, 25 for now, and catch a right on this DB94 as it leaves the sidings, where it was faithfully waiting for us. I'm actually still thinking that I will use, even here, a timetable. The background traffic is done randomly, and that is fine. That can continue like that. Yeah, now the DKW is correct. When we want to get to the harbor, we have to use the other direction. Down there. Let's see if that works. You still see that there are many unfinished areas, even now, especially here in the middle section. Also thinking about replacing this building with a different one. I have no more buildings, and I don't need this for parcels and goods like that. See that I have the lifted terrain only here at this track. I haven't bothered with this yet. You see some trains going in the background. That is lure controlled. Just happens. Since it is a little bit slow, let me speed up to 40 km/h. You see, it did a few things. It's actually a lot of work to put all these grasses and the little things in. But they are the ones that make things look realistic, so there's no way going around that. And there's much more needed. I fully realize that this is just the beginning. I've used the same gravel bed texture, but here I used a higher scale, that the stones look slightly larger. It's actually not bad. I may make it in more areas like this. It's not looking cool. Anyhow, we arrive in Farmington. I have no idea what's going to happen now. Maybe a big train disaster in the making. It slows down. That's already a good sign. Drives into the station. Nice. Some people wait for the passenger train, which is currently, of course, not available yet. Luckily, those people don't know it, otherwise they would go home angry. Now the engine has decoupled and moves forward. I have the brakes very short, not to stress anybody's patience here, and try their patience, I wanted to say. This, by the way, is my destroyed building here. That stands kind of here on the side of the road. It has a lot of wind damage in the roof. The engine drives back. Hopefully that... Yep. Switched over the switch. So far everything good, but there was no magic required yet. So far it is easy. I actually called the remaining cars turnip cars. You can use any string, but it is good to give them a name when you decouple them. Then you can use a lure function to activate the couplings again. Because eventually, if you do this often enough with the same cars and decouple from both sides, all the couplings will be inactive. And then you have to actually manually drives them over a contact if you don't want to use lure. Nope, there is no brake. Okay, that is. Let me make a little note here. I have an existing layout, I forgot which one, where a similar thing has been done. The author of that layout used a different building to build this ramp, but again, I guess I'm not creative enough. I apologize. I'm using... it doesn't work. I knew it. Okay, we knew it. So, the train actually went very slow, and just before contact, the reversal process started. So we have to go here into the contacts, move them just a little bit forward. Just make sure they are the right ones. Let's see what we're doing here. So in the first one, I set the speed to 1. That is only for route R1 because that is the one that the train gets after decoupling. And I don't want that. That is my generic name for when I'm shunting. I could also call it S1, I guess. I go very slowly forward because I still haven't perfected my coupling. And then the second contact, which will be hit a little bit later, again for route R1, with a certain delay, reverses the speed to 15, basically pulling out of the station. Once we do the full thing, we have, of course, to build in a much larger delay so that the tractors with the trailers have time to load the cars. And turnip is basically it's the only agricultural product I could find that I have cars for that operate them. So if you go in here, this car, it has multiple loads, which are represented by different textures. One of them are these beets or turnip, whatever. They're probably called beets officially. Let's call them turnips. So what I'm going to do now is I will reverse this engine manually and see if the coupling process now works in a correction mode here. And so let's assume nothing has happened. The train comes as an R1 in here and tries to couple again. We have reversed time. Now we go down to a speed of 1. I'm still too far away, I realize that now. But since we almost... Hey! I moved them forward, didn't I? Still not. Okay, well, let's try again. I've seen this done much better. Then once I have the time, I will go in and fine-tune the position of those contacts, and then you can couple better. Somebody knows a reliable automated way of doing it without fiddling with the contact, please let me know. I'd be happy to learn that. So, do this again. Speed should... Oh, no, I went way too fast in there. Waits a few seconds. And then pulls back. So that wait in the real operation will be extended to allow for a lot of time so that there can be some loading done. The train goes now back. It will pick up speed and then it will set the turnouts for the way back, which are almost identical but slightly different. Oops, there's another problem. Of course, we are still R1, and now I'm setting over again. That was pretty stupid. So what I have to do is, I have to give the train Yeah, now it's going forward and backward here. Idiot. I have to give the train here a different designation so that it doesn't turn over. So what we're going to do is, in here, we come in with route R1, but then change it to generic R2. So that we don't do the reverse thing here again. But then I have to make sure that I have no R1s in here. Well, the R1 wouldn't have come out of here anyways. But let's make it an R2 just to be on the safe side. No ambiguity. Here as well, R2. Oops, sorry, I wanted to go to route. Call it only for R2. And I believe, and I'm sorry for interrupting now, we have to go back to the train station here. I think they have some contacts here that also key on R1 still, which is of course completely wrong. Now that we know. That should be now also R2. Basically, that's where the train sets over. I can't go directly to the harbor. I have to drive in there and reverse. And then I have to make this R2. However, now this is called R3. I can put this a little bit back. And this one, let me make sure I did this right. No, I didn't. Then when we drive over this, the train will be here. So that has to be, that is basically the direction R3. And of course it has to be activated by route R3, which we just got here. But the beginning of the train will be already beyond this point when we reverse direction. So we can't activate this with the beginning of the train, so we have to use the end of the train here. That's important. And then we set hopefully all switches correctly to the harbor. So I go back to Farmington. Yeah, you see me messing around here. That's what I do if I actually prepare all this. Oops. Let's see if we now get into state R2 after switching over. Do I? Otherwise I have to do it manually. Yep. So basically now with the beginning of the train, it got the same command, luckily, to switch over the direction again. That wasn't the intended use. That was just coincidence that it worked. Now we are at 2. We drive back and we should get the speed of 40 km/h. For the way back, we should set all the switches correctly. Let's double check again. I have not tested this, as you have seen. Rushing back. I really like this engine. I'm kind of a fan of this small steam engines. They're easy to operate, they're not too long, they don't have this coal car. I'm not sure the English word for it. I call it a tender, but it doesn't sound right. Maybe it is right in English. I know the word tender only as a adjective, as in the famous Elvis song. And he didn't mean coal car, let's be sure about that. Anyhow, we come back. You see my early experiments with various textures, which weren't very good. I realize that. So far, at least, the switches were set correctly. That's good. But then they haven't changed much anyways. So now we go here in the very first siding and not the third where we started for variety. We just set in there, switch direction, and then hopefully make our way down there to the harbor. Go a little bit more the distance that we can observe the train in its entirety. The cold shunting actually that we looked at last time. Uh-oh. So, okay. This didn't work, obviously. I had the feeling that my contact was too late. The train had too much momentum and was carried too far. At least that is my early diagnosis. So I drive manually back. A good piece, actually. And then we'll readjust the contacts, making sure that we have a smoother stop there. Perhaps we can also lower the speed earlier so that we don't come in here with the full 40 km/h, that we can come in with more a shunting speed of 15 when we get to this point. Yeah, let me do that. It takes a little bit longer to watch, but that should be okay. Better than crashing into the barrier, which isn't very nice. Let me put another contact in here. We are here. We want to reduce the speed to 15. I've, as usual, no idea which direction it is. Set to 15. And that is only for R2, which is the route we are on when we came back from Farmington. And then hopefully, yeah, it was the right direction by coincidence. They seem to be a little bit too far back here. I'm not sure, with 15, maybe we are okay. Just to be on the safe side, adjust them a little bit. Reverse 15 again, that's fine. That should be enough. But now, let's pretend we are still on R2, just come from Farmington. And drive with -40 into our sidings. And I just see the first switching mistake. We weren't supposed to go in there, so I have to adjust in my Lua script the direction of this switch. So we come with 40, 39 in any case. Now slowed down to 15, which is a more reasonable speed, for sure. Will also make our stopping a little bit more prompt and doesn't let us overshoot so far. You could also argue that I don't need to go that deeply into the siding. I could actually, stop here and switch over. So that was a very generous amount of distance here that I use. It's actually a little bit unrealistically long, come to think of it. Given that the train driver knows he only wants to switch directions, right? So. Oh, by the way, what I have to do now is correct already this one switch. That was this one, where we went into this area instead of going to the harbor. And that is 37. So 37 in the Lua script for TP3 has to be the opposite direction. Coal shunting, turnip shunting. 37 is the other direction. Reload script. Very good. Let's see what happens. We go back to drive mode. We have switched back to R3 now. That is, of course, correct. The end of the train should have gone over our vehicle, our sound contact. That sets the switches. Let's sit on the train again. And with a little bit outlook, we can see if we actually go right here. Yeah, our main train operation is still working. I switched off the lumbar shunting. That is a very involved process, and I didn't want to get into that. It just eats up CPU power. And again, speaking about timetables, I think I do those things after each other. Maybe I make at the very end when I'm happy with the layout. I make one movie to look at all those things, but in sequence, one after another, and not at the same time all the time. Okay, so far so good. Yes, this crossing is in the way. Oh my god. Let me just get this out of the way. Next correction. I'm not sure I should have a railway crossing with a... I'm not even sure I should have this crossbars here. Maybe I should just have an unguarded crossing with a sound signal or something. That probably makes more sense in this area, which is not really a road. It's just an industrial track there where a few delivery vehicles drive. Okay, let's go into here, to here. You see that is the, at least my default texture, which is quite, well, basic. It's called grass. It's hard to imagine, but okay. Alright. This seems to be set correctly. This does not seem to be set correctly. Luckily we cut it open in this direction, so it doesn't matter. Now we come to the next crossing, which would need this secured crossing, but it doesn't have one yet. So let's hope that no car is coming. Otherwise we have again some injuries. Uh-oh. And we have another problem. Let me stop. There's the soda train. What's he doing here? Let me just completely get rid of him. Go in here, let me save him, then I can set him up at the soda factory. Save train. Let's call him Curve Soda. No, spelling. So, Curve Soda, and you go. Isn't that wonderful in a model railway? Again, I don't think that my track laying, I'm seeing it myself. It's not right. Here, any reasonable railway engineer would have made this a straight and then around, and not this curve here. Just doesn't look right. I don't know. And if they couldn't go through this area, they would have made the straight here probably, but they wouldn't have made this funny triple curves here. That is just not right, in my opinion, in any case. All right. there's our agricultural part of the train station where we load barges with turnips apparently. We're also too fast. I know where my contact is. We will crash into the barrier. I know it already. Boom. So that wasn't designed very well. Let me go back. And then A, reduce the speed beforehand a little bit. Maybe with a vehicle contact in this area, which we quickly do. Let me go to 2D mode. Signals. Where am I? Here. Put a vehicle contact here. I just pick a direction. Say a route. Well, actually any route should go slow there. I don't see no reason to limit this. Set the speed to 15, which isn't too slow. And then this is my contact that stops the train. It is actually for route R2. Well, considering that it is the end of the track, that should be valid for any route. And it was wrong, that's why the train didn't stop. Didn't even realize that. I thought it was too late. Set it a little bit further in. And try it again. With a high speed, now we are already well beyond 15. Yeah, we slow down a little bit, that is good. Drive at a reasonable speed in this station. I'm not sure if 15 km/h is a reasonable speed, I think so it is. And then a train should manage to stop before the barrier. Fantastic. Okay, so what have we accomplished? We have managed to get this train from its starting point where it was waiting to Farmington. We didn't load it with turnips, but we were in the right spot to do that. We set over the engine, drove back into the sidings to change direction, came down to the harbor. Here we will unload the turnips somehow. And then we will, of course, go back into our waiting position. That is the final step, and we don't do that today. So I think with this last look on our turnip train, we'll stop for today. The video has become long enough. In the next episode on this layout, we will look at the selection of agricultural street vehicles that we use to bring the turnips to the train station in Farmington. And I think we had also enough disasters for one day in any case. So, and then we will finish the process, hopefully. And in the meanwhile, I expect that the actually next video that will come out will be an update on the river delta layout, where I actually have learned some new techniques. And just in case somebody may not know that and be as ignorant than I was before, I would like to share with you what I've learned on gravel beds and the like. So, see you in the next video. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.